talking about this Godox KNOWLED line that they've brought out. I don't even know how long it's been out, but kind of what we got here is the Godox KNOWLED line is a series of high-end professional grade LED lighting equipment designed for film and broadcast, encompassing studio heads, LED panels, and mats known for their color accuracy, versatility, and ease of use. So that's kind of like the elevator pitch for it. And again, the point that I'm making here is I find it interesting that Godox is targeting that end of the market, right? I guess, not only do they want lots of money, they just want all the money. So they are going after every sector. And look, they did a very good job of dominating the photography market in a short space of time. So we'll see if they have much more luck in cinema. I think it's a very different beast to deal with, and we'll see how Profoto manages it as well. Yeah. So what have we got? The product range studio has the M series, powerful continuous LED head units, favorable daylight balance by color, 230 to 740. The F series is the panels, so pretty standard stuff. Modifiers, accessories, high color accuracy. I mean, it's pretty standard now. Yeah, right. I don't really think you can claim that anymore. Versatility, ease of use, reliability, basic stuff, right? Okay. So let's kind of have a look at some of their bits here. So just to be clear, this is not like a sponsor stream by Essential Photo or anything like that. I have worked with Essential Photo over the years. Really good guys. Yang, the owner there, is very good guy. Knows a lot of what he's talking about, unlike a lot of other kind of owners of photography companies and brands and that sort of thing. So I got a lot of the time for the guy, and I was very fortunate that he shared a lot of his knowledge about some of the new bits that KNOWLED or Godox are bringing out. So there's tons of different bits, right? And they range from these absolutely monstrous cob heads here to like the panels and other kind of cinematic style lights in between. So we're going to talk about these MS60s in a bit, and these reflector plates here as well, because kind of unique to what most of us typically do. But I thought it was kind of interesting that Godox is pursuing that. So this is the kind of price point that we're talking about here for these KNOWLEDs, right? And this is what, 2400 watt bicolor, and this thing is a monster, right? And it's over £7,000. So I mean, you're looking at closer to $10,000. So this is an absolute monster. Yeah. You want the link for the images? You certainly can, mate. Yeah, you certainly can. Yeah. There you go. Pop it in there. Good luck, though. Good luck. Caliber is pretty high this week. They want to sponsor a stream. I'll start streaming. I'll do anything for a biscuit, mate. Yeah. So just really monstrous heads. This is where they kind of, and this has been out a few years, I think, or at least 2 or 3 years, and they've got their own mount now. It's got the G mount, I think, which is a larger mount to encompass these larger cobs and that sort of thing as well. And these things are bright, right? In fact, they have a safety feature where you actually have to have the modifier attached before the cob will kind of engage, right? So you can't just you can't just have you can't have the modifier off and this just nuking you in the face. So yeah, these are serious lights. I mean, what is the weight of this? Just to have an idea. What do we think? This has got to be. Do they have the weight? Look at this. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So the body and the yoke is 22 kilos. So you need a serious piece of kit. Yeah. So that's £7,000. So it'll probably be closer to $10,000. Yeah. Decent. Yeah. A lot of the LEDs now, I think because of the way that they function, most of them are like IP65, which is like spraying water on it. Like IP65 means basically anything that isn't submerged, so you can be pressure hosing it and it still be fine. Yeah, I didn't see the IP rating, but I'm sure it's very IP54. So like this will deal with pouring rain, but probably not pressurized water. Okay. So let me just see if I can grab some of these video here. You can easily take it on location with the Pro Photo. I mean, because we watched the Pro Photo video the other week, and it's like only 12 kilos. It's like, right. I mean, it makes sense, right? That Pro Photo can kind of tout that when you've got these heads, because the Pro Photo is all inclusive, right? Godox has this massive control box outside of it as well, so I think it gave the weight for the control box as well. Controller is another 13 kilos. So now, granted, this is a lot more powerful than the Pro Photo 1600, but I think they do, here you go, 1200 watt head here, and that's got a control box as well on the outside. I mean, this is only $5,000 UK pounds. Let's have a look. How much does this thing weigh? So 10 kilos for the head and the yoke, and then another kind of 7 for the controller. So yeah, meaty indeed. Yeah. What about the Godox beam light, the max 90 reflector? Exactly, Anders. Yeah. So I was kind of looking at that, which is kind of an interesting. I managed to grab just pulled across some videos from my phone. So yeah, here you go. I think audio is on, so I apologize if it will be. I'll leave the audio on if it's kind of annoying. Then I'll stop it. But I'll just put my headphones in. So essentially, this is that head with and what like Anders said there. This is this kind of beam head, and what this is doing is kind of projecting the light or pushing the light out. And I think it might even be a 5-degree beam. I'll check in a minute. So you can really push this light a long way. And this is not like light spreading everywhere. Like if you just had a normal dish on it, or like no dish at all, light goes everywhere and you lose a lot of this power. But you could see from that shot there a minute ago, I think you see it here as well, where he kind of changes the color. He's just dialing it in there, so it's not touchscreen. You've got to do it by hand. But this is full RGB. I think this is the 1200R, which is so like this. That is a long way, and that's pretty bright. Now you bear in mind, this is a very well lit arena, whatever you want to call it, expo hall, and this is a 1200, right? So this is this kind of, what is it, max 60 or something it's called. And so this is really pushing light a long way. And I kind of want to get into some of the reasons for this later on when we talk about the reflectors and that sort of thing, and some of the MS60Rs or whatever it was as well, like the kind of faux dado lights that they've kind of come out with, as well as the reflectors. Because there's some things that people do on TV sets and TV and cinema sets that they're kind of trying to change how light looks so that it looks more natural than kind of we would do in a studio. And these kind of beams do that really well. So for example, you could have this on the floor, right? Because it's obviously, you're not putting this up outside of a second-story building window. You would have this on the floor at ground level, on the street, and then you would fire this up into a reflector, like basically like a silver mirror type thing, and then that would be angled into the room, so that's how you get that very even light. So this is where these beam reflectors kind of become very useful, because you can target exactly where you want this light over a very long distance, right? And I think it's like 200 meters or something like that, which is does it show it there? I mean, that is a long, like, that is bright, a very long way away. Yeah, which is like, It's crazy. It's crazy. So what that dish is doing is pretty impressive. Yeah. Very, very specific, obviously, pretty niche, but interesting nonetheless. And whether that could be scaled down, I'm kind of curious. Let's have a look what else we got here. Let's got this one as well. A similar sort of thing. I think this is the 24. I think this is the 2400. This is bicolor. Similar sort of thing. It's not got the same kind of magnifying dish in there or bounce cone or anything like that, but similar sort of thing. So this is 24. I mean, that's very bright, a very long way away in a very well lit hall. You know, you guys can see how quiet this expo is here. It's nuts. This is on the weekend, by the way, like in the afternoon. So these kind of dishes and what they're using them for seem kind of a little bit obtuse, right? What would I be able to do with that? But having the ability to throw light a very, very long way and then control it once it gets to that point is super useful in film, because a lot of film sets are quite big, right? You can't have the film, like the light on set is got to be well out of shot, right? Because for us in the the studio and that sort of thing, all our lights would kind of be relatively close and that sort of stuff. But with film, you're shooting a set with a whole room and 5 or 6 people in that room. The lights have got to be way out of shot. So these kind of beam reflectors are very, very useful to be able to do that. So what we got here? So this is the Max 60. So this is what I was just looking at there. I think they do a 90 as well, but this sits on the front as we saw, and this is like 1300 for this, right? And this is that specific kind of design that really pushes that light all the way out. It's got these cones in here. You don't see. Do you see a side shot? Kind of, but you don't see the actual diffusion cone in there. So yeah, like not cheap, but when the light's costing $7,000 to begin with, this kind of becomes less of an issue, right? So this is the Max 90. So the Beamlight Max 90 cinema grade parallel beam, and again we'll kind of get into why this is more interesting in a minute, but this is even. I mean, this is $7,000, right? So this will go. I think this one goes even further. It's an absolute monster. Yeah. So I mean, like they kind of use this example here of it's powerful enough to be able to do the work of 3 or 4 lights here and that sort of thing. So 280 meters. This is a very niche job, right? Very niche job. But again, it's kind of interesting that Godox is kind of pushing into this realm, The Batman, I know, right? Yeah, it's exactly what that is. Yeah, it's literally like that Batman light. Yeah. You don't even need a space heater. Yeah, I bet that gets pretty damn hot. Yeah, I bet that gets pretty damn, even as an LED. People say, oh no, it doesn't get hot, but that's because they're comparing it to the old tungsten hot lights, literally. So when people go, oh no, these lights don't get hot, like they're comparing it to the very hot tungsten lights. Yeah. It does look like something from NASA. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty. It looks like it's been made pretty damn well. But then you'd expect it for that sort of money. Yeah, this thing from a promotional image they had when they released it a while ago. Yeah, it's been up for a while. Yeah. What's the equivalent cost for something like that? What do you mean the equivalent cost? You're talking about? I mean, $7,000 sterling is, I don't know. I'm just roughly guessing, but it's probably about $10,000 if you were to convert it directly. That being said, most things are cheaper in dollars anyway, so you're probably paying a similar price in dollars, to be fair. Yeah. Oh, from another brand. This is going to be the cheaper one. I don't have on hand. I don't have an equivalent to show you, Tommy. But it is a good question though. But this is going to be the cheaper end of it. If somebody's got an example, like I can look up or a link, then I'm more than happy to take a look. But I mean, who would do something like that? Arri, maybe Aperture would have one. Nanlite probably would as well. Yeah, but that is a good point. Like, what is the, like, where does this price sit? Yeah, yeah. So Beauty says, I'm a 4'11" woman. I'd imagine me trying to carry that. Yeah, it's just not practical, right? These are for sets. This is not just somebody, yeah, somebody just doing a on location shoot or anything like that. Yeah, these are major crews for that. Yeah. Okay, so this is more of the typical stuff that a lot of us are kind of used to, right? With the panels, you know. And I think I had a look at one of those. Again, I was kind of surprised at this because 600 watt, okay, we kind of got a rough idea of what that's doing. As a panel though, I was like, 600 watt panel, okay. I was actually kind of surprised as to how bright this was. So let me just have a look at this in another video here. This is the, we just saw this. This is the, I think, what, the 2400 without the cover on, without the modifier on. Again, they're showing the price there. We looked at $7,000. It was only $5,000 if you bought it on the day. But yeah. That's not it. What do we got? What are we looking for? We had, is it this one? I think it's this one. So that is lighting up that ceiling from the 600 watt head, and I think it's because of the case on the LEDs. I think I show a shot of it in a minute, but they're kind of like, they've all got these magnifying domes on them, which is kind of interesting. So it really pushes that light out, right? Really pushes it a long way forward. So yeah, so this is full RGB again. And I think I show it here. This is just in what, tungsten, so you know, like 2500 or something like that. Yeah, and I think it's. I think I show the front of it in a second. Yeah. I mean, it's right. That's like for 600 watts in that arena, it's very bright. So that's pushing that light a long way forward. So there you go. You got these kind of dome shapes here that are somehow really sending that light straight out. Because I was kind of surprised because here, like if you stand here with any other kind of LED panel, you'd be blinded by it, right? But you can see how it's not. I mean, sure, I'm seeing some of the light because the camera has closed the aperture down, but I'm not seeing most of that light. Most of that light is going straight out and forward, thanks to these kind of domes. So again, it's just kind of interesting to see where they're going with the ideas on some of these lights, really pushing that light forward rather than trying to spread it. Yeah. But again, all this can be controlled by their app and that sort of thing. Yeah. I don't think. Oh, we got this one here. So this is just the wider version, and this kind of shows. Well, I think this is what, 2 foot, 3 foot wide, 2 foot wide, something like that, and that just shows all like the different matrices that you can adjust all of these separately. Yeah. So I don't know how many people use this. Like, what is the benefit of really having multiple, like being able to change the colors like this? Do you know what I mean, is there a benefit? I've seen videos in the past, and you know, Vlad has sent me them as well, where people are kind of faking fire, like crackling fire and that sort of thing, and they'll have these sheets of gels, and they'll have orange and kind of yellows and you know, even blues in there as well, and they'll kind of be moving these multicolored gels across a light to create this kind of fire effect. Because you wouldn't think, well, why is there blue gel there? But when you see the result, it looks very legit. I could see a reason for that. The other reason I could see is maybe something like this, where let's say you were shooting this vertically, right? And you had your kind of headshot here, right? And I've seen people where they've had like kind of like the bottom third is kind of a warm color, like a beachy warmer color, and then the top kind of 2/3 are like a colder blue color. And that does actually kind of look good, right? You think it wouldn't, but it does actually look good. I think there's like bluff bounce or something like that, and they make reflectors that kind of have those duotone colors, so you can bounce back that kind of more natural light looking color, you know, so warmer colors at the bottom and then colder colors at the top, and you could do something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like it's a feature. How often you would use it, not sure. Yeah. Wonder how popular panels are nowadays. I think most people would invest in lights. They can use modifiers more easily. So this is that is a good point, Grabs. Yeah, it is. And look, I still swear by the fact that my Rotolight panel, which is like a 12-inch, like the EOS, is absolutely beautiful as a key light, right? And I stand by that vehemently. I stand by that. That gives a remarkable, just incredible looking light as a key light. But it's very, very good at that one job. And you're right, Grabs. You know, if you're like, oh, I don't have a huge amount of money, what am I going to spend my budget on? Yeah, like an S-Fit, cob light, whatever, is where you can put a softbox, you can put a hard light on it. Absolutely, right? That is, you know, as you're going to be able to do way more with your money and with your light if you have the ability to adjust that. And you got to remember that lighting, you know, way back when was very kind of refined, and the lights were very, very good at specific jobs. And then we went through this kind of phase of ease of use and budgets and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of stills photographers, like softboxes, like a great example. I'm not going to spend ages going on this, but they are very average at best of what they do. Like it's not that's not replicating any real light that exists, you know. Whereas like an old Fresnel head gives you a gorgeous quality light that is kind of representative of, you know, daylight and that sort of thing. But you have that flexibility to put a reflector or a snoot or a softbox on your head. So I do agree with your point. I think if you've got limited budget and you just want to get 6 lights that kind of can do anything, makes total sense. And most of my career, that's exactly what I did. I had 6 strobes that I kind of used, and they were all S-Fit Bowens, and that's absolutely fine. It's only recently that when I started to play with the panels where you start to see that quality of light, you just like, it's tough to go back. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Beauty talking about the long exposures with that. I could see that being cool, Beauty. Yeah, I could definitely see that being cool. You're right. Yeah. And I mean, you guys know that I did that article recently where I was using that kind of color loop that I kind of thought was a bit of a fad, right? A bit of a gimmick, and then I started to play around with it, and I was like, actually, this is really cool. Yeah, like these, right? So this long exposure, kind of using the same thing where you kind of program in the, you know, lights to change color, and then you can get these kind of very kind of unique looks with them using long exposure. So yeah, you're right. There is possibility. You could do the same thing. You kind of set this up on the background, firing at the background, and do a similar sort of thing to what I've done here with the Nanlite hue loops. Yeah. So yeah, you could definitely do that. Yeah. Can I get the technical drawings? They are pretty special, mate. I see. Yeah, you know, speak to me at the end, and we'll see if we can sort out a deal. Yeah. Honestly, my ADHD favors it and bullets. What the hell? What's this? Shameless promotion, and what can be done with RGB strip like that? Can do the colors. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at that. So this is probably a look at one of.
My RGB lights are most probably better than yours. Take a look at this clip and count how many lights.
You see that rage bait that Vlad used.
My RGB lights are most probably better than yours. Take a look at this clip and count how many lights I'm turning off. Let's count it again, but I'll add another angle, because the reality is I'm only using 2 lights. And here are the shots that I can get with them, so we can understand.
Great example, Vlad. Yeah, really cool.
I'm taking advantage of the fact that my tubes have roughly around a meter, and I'm splitting them into segments that emit different color of light. The length matters because I can have the same tube act as a kicker light, a key light, and even a bit of fill on the other side of the face. Now to pull this off, I needed to have the lights really close to my face and pay a lot of attention.
That's cool, man. That's beautiful.
Each of the segments reflects light off my skin, but the fact that I can adjust the power of each segment individually from my phone made this manageable. And don't you think I picked random color? Magenta, orange and red are evenly spaced on the color wheel, and they help me create vibrant contrasts. And yes, I'm going to make a bigger video.
Let me just grab that. So that's that link there from Vlad. Check that out as well. Very, very cool, Vlad. Yeah, great example of using those kind of I forget what they call it. What are the sections called? Like it's not segments, but similar to that. Yeah. Sectors or something. Yeah. So coming back to wherever it was here in the. So on the app, you can have those zones or sections that you can kind of delegate, and I could see the benefit of just white light as well, right? You can have a grad, like a gradient, so bright at the top and then gradient down. If you were to have them mounted vertically, but typically, you could mount that one vertically there, just on the right angle. That would be cool. Yeah. Trading how many so in my software segments. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right, because I have to see in a minute, because we look at them in the tubes that Yang showed me in a second. Yeah, I'm going to need to last after one of those tubes. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So this is just the longer version of these and how they're working. That's only 2.5 grand for that one. Yeah. There we go there. So on the store, 3 grand. So it makes sense with video, right? So you can see that they are changing the light on her there. It's a pretty niche scenario. Like if you happen to be driving down a wormhole, like this light is perfect for you. But yeah, the changing lights again. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to put in the software, so why not have it, right? Why not have it? Yeah. Want to see that close up with the LEDs? Oh, what, in the video, Vlad? Yeah. Can you believe I missed that? There you go. Does that help? So what do they got? Does that mean anything to you, Vlad? The CWB and the WW? I suppose it. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. So they are a bunch of. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. To a penny one, mate. Yeah, right. Next time I'm in one, I'm definitely going to use that light, 100%. Yeah. They are the RGB strips of AliExpress, but I built one to run. Yeah, so those lights that the Vlad was just showing you there, the ones that he's built. So he just got the base parts from AliExpress, and then he's kind of programmed them to do that. Yeah. WW is warm white. Thank you. You know, I could not. I knew what WW was. Could not think what WW was. Yeah. Colder. Okay. Yeah. You can see the. Yeah. So you got the green and the interesting. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah, there's those. Okay, what else we got there? Let's have a look. So this is kind of not strictly within the KNOWLED range, but it's kind of interesting to see Godox bringing out these power packs, right? And many of you won't even know what these are, because it's something that we used a long time ago, and I hated using them. We had them in several studios that I worked in over the years, and there's supposedly tons and tons of benefits for them and all that crap, but essentially these power packs, you plug in multiple lights into one pack, right? So here, like, we've got the P2400, so 2400 watts, and you have 2 lights plugged into it here, and then each of those lights can be 1200 or 1200, or you can kind of mix and match how much power you send to each light and that sort of stuff. So you could have, in theory, you could have one head being like 1000 watt and another head being 1400 watt. The issue is so this is what I always ran into when I was in the studio, is I wanted to do certain lighting setup, and I set the light up, and it's like, and it go me. It would start, screaming at you because you're like, oh no, you've got the balance of power wrong. It's like, Jesus Christ, I just want to just light this, a couple of stops prior than that. It's like, oh no, it's a mismatch in power outputs or balancing and that sort of stuff. So it's a real pain in the ass. So I just prefer the separate monoblocks that most of us use, right? So the separate individual units, and you're not worrying about this pack. Now, don't get me wrong, if you were assisting years ago or anything like that, you would need to know how to use all of these packs, and most of the major studios run on these packs, like it or not, right? I was just never a fan of them. But it's interesting to see Godox going down this road, because this is something that we don't typically use that often anymore. And again, there are these packs in the major studios, and again, like we're saying, Godox is just trying to go down every single road here to try and see what they can get their fingers into. This is a smaller one here, 1200 watt, right? So I don't think there's not really an exciting video about it, but we can have a look at it. So again, yeah, just kind of showing off the power pack here. I was just kind of really, they just got these kind of older heads here being plugged into them, but I just find it really odd that Godox are going down this route. Again, they just want to have every base covered, and I suppose if you were doing like this major sale, you can offer your client, like, if somebody's got like a major studio, a major e-com fashion house is gonna just go, yeah, look, here's 50 grand, we need to kit out this studio, which happens. I suppose Godox just needs to make sure that they have every option available, right? But again, I just thought it was odd to kind of see it, So that was the 2400, and then this is the smaller one, the 1200 head here, or pack, sorry. But again, yeah, they were always a pain. Yeah, I mean, the other benefit of the power packs, as we can kind of see here, was that these heads that you would have kind of separate, right? Like none of the power is in there. You basically just have this little bulb in this little head, because this is essentially a 1200 watt head, which would be massive typically. But now you can have this tiny little head, and you can have that with a big modifier on it, and all the juice is being pumped from the pack. So there was like some benefits in terms of weight and size wise of having these kind of very, very small heads that you could put anywhere without having to get this like 1200 watt monoblock up there. Was not cool. So there is some benefits in terms of size. So the pack there, so 1100. I mean, like, these, is that one head? That's one head. 1200 watt with one head. Interesting. Yeah. So kind of just slightly off topic there, but in the same vein of interesting to see where Godox is going. They're pushing out of this kind of mainstream prosumer level, right? Which typically is where you would think all the money is, right? Or certainly people buying stuff. Yeah. Got a screenshot of it, thanks. A little look at the RGB they have there, no worries, man. Remember they're making a comeback with the 8200 Pro. They also announced a new battery grip for both LED strobes. It's called battery. Yeah, that's right, Grab. I did see that battery grip. I think, Vlad, you sent that video to me, right? And I think we were kind of questioning it, because I was like, well, it already has a battery in it. So this is just more battery, but in a battery grip. It just seems, products for the sake of products. If anybody's got a link to that, then send it over, and I'll have a look. But yeah, kind of weird. Yeah. So coming on from the tubes, so Vlad was talking about the tubes that he was showcasing there, that he kind of made himself, and these are the KNOWLED tubes, right? So these are these are pricey. These are 400 quid, and these are the pixel tubes, right? So this is a 2-foot tube for 400 quid, right? And here we can see the different segments here. Yeah, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, right? This is the 2-foot, and I think they do 4-foot and 8-foot as well, right? And you can, like the benefit of changing the segments here. So you can barely see it in the reflection here, but you see the segments running down the tube. So they just have a highlight running down the tube, and that's to kind of simulate him driving past, because he's not actually driving the car, he's just sat in the studio, but that's kind of simulating him driving past lights. So again, kind of an interesting use for these segments in these tubes. And look, you can get fancy with it as well. So these are all, I mean, can you imagine how much that set costs? But that would be one of the most expensive ways to shoot that shot I could possibly think of. Because they are trying to get the certain, let's just say you're in a studio and you're trying to film the cast looking up at fireworks, and you're going to comp them in green screen or whatever later on, and you need the lighting to be reacting on the skin. You would use these pixel sticks to kind of show this kind of fireworks explosion, right? There is like a trillion cheaper ways to do this thing, but it's just really kind of a showcase of what you can do with it. Yeah. And get it, power banks plus more money, I guess. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Surely that's kind of one of the only reasons for it. And some of these major budgets, just like so much of that money gets gobbled up and lost in the system on some of these huge sets with colossal budgets. That's who they're targeting with that. Yeah. So pixel tubes. Have a look at these pixel tubes here.
Last thing I got you. So these new LED tubes here. So this is at the 4-foot, and then we got the 2-foot, and then the 8 feet here. And you said there's 36 sections.
It's 32.
32 sections.
32. 16.
Okay. Yeah.
32.
32 on the yeah.
64.
Okay. And these are the 100.
So what I was kind of concerned at here was the 180-degree spread, right? So for a lot of my shoots, I tend to want the lights to be in shot tube-wise. So this only having 180-degree spread, it's useful for sure, but if you wanted them in shot, you're not going to be able to see very much, because you're only going to be able to see 180 degrees. The benefit of them being 180 degrees is that all the light goes out where you want it, but that's kind of why I'm kind of highlighting this here.
180-degree ones, and each of those sections can be controlled on the app. Yeah, 32 sections. Yeah.
So from here, he just goes on to kind of get the app going with the actual sections. But Vlad just showed us how he was doing it in his own kind of app piece of software there, and that's exactly the same thing. So Yang is just kind of taking me through the Godox app here, and in here you'll be able to control the so you've got the colors, the color length, which is you can designate the size of the segments and all those kind of features there, and you're obviously going to have a lot more adjustability on the app than on the light itself, right? So yeah, I don't think we cover anything else there. So again, you can kind of see it happening there. These were pretty bright. Yeah, I mean these were very bright compared to some of the cheaper ones that I've seen. But you're paying 400 quid. Does anybody know how much a 2-foot pavo tube is? Does anybody want to have a look at how much a 2-foot pavo tube is? So that'd be the equivalent from Nanlite. Like, where is Godox positioning these pixel tubes in the market? I'll be kind of interested to see. Yeah. So yeah, we just go into kind of more of the details there. Is it 300 quid, Scribe? So Godox is coming in more expensive than the pavo tubes. Is that right? Can't be. High pixel density, Vlad. It doesn't actually say. It just says high density. But kind of basic on the screen. But like the app is where you would do most of this, right? Yeah. But hey, some of these would be so expensive. Can you imagine buying, 16 of these? It'd just be just wild. Yeah. FPS, not pixels. Sorry, Vlad, forgive me. Yeah. Having built a CMRX cost a bit as they have to pay Lumina license fee. Oh, okay. I didn't know that, Steve. Interesting. Okay. And I've known of some of the weird kind of workarounds or payments that people had to make in the past. Like grids, like the egg crates that you get on softboxes. That was obviously a pattern that everybody had to pay for, and we would go apeshit back in the day. Like, you're charging me like 140 quid for a grid for a softbox. A softbox cost half that. Like, why is that? It's because of the the patents. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. So having built-in CMRX costs a bit as they have to pay Lumina license fee for that, and that's what I was told. The latest powered tubes was that the last show. That's interesting, Steve. Okay, yeah, good shout. Yeah. So Steve had a look. So we got 360 quid for the latest powered tube. So yeah, 300 quid plus VAT. So. And that's a 2-foot one, Steve. Did you have a look at that? That's a 2-foot one, which is what this is. Yeah, that's wild, man. That's wild that they're coming in. So Godox is coming in more expensive than. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. Like, nanlite and power tubes is arguably the industry standard for tubes, right? I'm not using them myself, but like whenever we think of the light tubes, we like power tube is practically the brand name that we all know and associate with these LED tubes, and Godox is coming in more expensive than them. Interesting. I would need to see. I'd be interested to know why that is. Like, has it got more features somehow? Like different segments, they can control more of the segments that power tubes can. Like I said, I haven't used either. I've seen that we have a ton of control in the segments here. Maybe power tubes don't have that. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know whether they do or not. Yeah. Real challenge with any of these tubes is how good the white light is. Yeah, true. And how they're doing it. If the white pixels, the RGB LED is usually low CRI. But, it's a fair comment. Yeah, and so my cheap ones that I use, so I never use them for white light. But yeah, Vlad is absolutely right. I have some cheap tubes here that I have. I'm sure you've seen, my images using them before. And I just use them for the pink or blues and that sort of thing, but horrendous white light. Now, if you were only shooting that one, if you're only shooting the tubes, you could kind of fix it in Lightroom with white balance and tint and that sort of thing. But yeah, that is right. Yeah, like the white light on some of these RGB tubes can be rough. Yeah. According to the flash tenter, the RRP is 400 quid. Okay, so for the 2-foot ones and power tubes, so they are. So they're trying to be competitive. Yeah. And Ed says that the 4-foot panel tubes only have 4 segments. Okay, so Godox is coming in similar price here, but they are going well. Ours are going to have. Because what did Yang say? I think 4-foot had like 32 segments. I think a 2-foot has 16 segments. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's only got 8. I don't know, but certainly a lot more than 4. Yeah. Oh, can't see anything there. Yeah. So these are 33 watts. Okay, I mean they seem pretty bright, but yeah. Again, you've got that light spread out over a very large area, and I'm only looking at the 2-foot. So number of pixels 16. So is that referring to the segments? Is that what they refer to as the segments? 16 pixels. I think that is what they refer to it on the app as well. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. So IP65 as well. So you can use these in pouring. So it's pretty high. It's actually like 95 is a standard, and anything above that, you know, you're kind of quids in. Very high color range. You know, we've kind of reviewed a bunch of LED, like high-priced LED lights here recently, and they've been like 3,500 to 6,500 or something like that. Like not unusable, but certainly not 2,000, 10,000. That's a very, very wide range. Yeah. Okay. I was pretty surprised at the weight of these things as well. So like the 4-foot was pretty heavy. Like you definitely notice it compared to the, I guess it just comes with the product. I think the guy said you could drop it on the floor and it would totally be fine and that sort of thing. So I guess they're built to last, which is great, you know. Okay. So just LEDs for just how closely packed they are. Okay. Photo 3 in this product. What do you just mean? Yeah. Okay. Well, I can see the gaps there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And 5 for context. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, Vlad. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So here we got them packed, and here not so packed. Yeah, interesting. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Where do we get to? Let's have a look. So we're looking at the tubes. Yeah, cool. Okay. So coming off from the tubes then, like there's been a lot of people that have been very, very excited about these, right? And I was kind of confused at first, and I think that, again, it's interesting that Godox is pushing into this, because these are the old dado lights, is what we know them as from cinema, which are the old hot lights, very, very hot lights, but very, very small units and very, very focused beam of light, right? And this is the LED equivalent that Godox have come out with, these MS60Rs. So what do we got here? Well, this is kind of this interchangeable system here, right? So you got your base unit here in the middle, right? You see we've got the little cob in there, then you've got your kind of reflector on the front there, and then you can apply any of the modifiers there, and then you've got your battery on the back, and then you've got your kind of connectors as well. So this is kind of interchangeable system, right? And this thing is this is a little bit bigger than a can of Coke, right? So it's pretty small, very, very small. But this is, this is not cheap. 1,400 quid. These are 60-watt little heads, very, very focused beam. And many of you are probably thinking, I just cannot see why, or the use case for this. And I get that, because that is a very niche look, especially when, like, what was the other Godox head that was this size? It was like a 100 or something. It was, I forget what it's called. They very closely copied the Profoto one, but that was the same sort of can of Coke size. What was that one called? 80-100. Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, let's have a look at that. So this is exactly the same size in terms of the unit, and what I mean by that is you can use some of the modifiers that we'd use on this. You can use on this new, whatever it's called, MS60 or something. Yeah. So similar sort of size and proportions. This is the flash one, right? And this is this kind of newer one. So let's have a look at some of the videos I got here. Let me just catch up on some of these messages here. The idea is that you can't go much closer than they did there with 144 LEDs, maybe the best I've seen. Okay. So you got to keep them separate on that. Yeah, it's funny seeing these in the no LED lineup. I would assume, judging from the price, they would be regular Godox. Are you talking about these new soda can lights here? Is that what you mean? Yeah. It's interesting to see where they're going with it. Yeah. So the 8100s, yeah, you've got something really useful. I mean, yeah, if you're like on the move or something like that, or on location or a wedding or something, I mean, Christ, you could have 2, 3, 4 of these in your rucksack and not know anything about it, right? There you go. When I see a D100, I think, what am I talking about? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that shot in the rain where the groom were placed in between the camera and the flash. Yeah, very convenient. 100%. Yeah. For the size, the light miles, 60, I think, kind of cool and cheap. Okay, so you're talking about the AD100s there, Sleepy? Is that what you mean? Let's have a look at. It's only for the basic light. Love extras. Okay, yeah, as that is a fair comment. Let's have a look at. Let's have a look at this here.
One button.
Better Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So I think he's just talking about the connectability. You can just tap the phone and connect each of these. That's got like this kind of spotlight on it there.
Kit of 4. You
Yeah.
got 4 lights, 8 batteries,
Yeah.
plus all the accessories there. So two cases.
Which is the Fresnel and the
Yeah,
and the
2 of each basically.
grids and the
Outdoors.
there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. there's a lot.
So he's talking about the kit there. You've got 4 lights, 8 batteries, and that sort of thing. Okay, cool. And he's talking about like the Fresnels and all the grids and that sort of thing.
You got little softboxes.
You've got softboxes in there as well. I don't know how useful they'd be on this tiny light, but
And how long do the batteries last on these? Because 60 watts, something like that. 2 hours, something like that.
Well, you got spare one
And these are full RGB?
for RGB.
Yeah.
Everything app control.
Yeah.
And also the support and NFC. So
he just goes on to talk about syncing up with the phone and that sort of thing. So yeah, full RGB, little head like this. Interesting, right? Now, the sky's the limit in terms of accessories and that sort of thing, because there's so much that you can do with them. On the front with modifiers, but also on the back, right? With the batteries and connecting it to. You can use a USB bank, power bank. You could use just a normal light bulb socket, which I'll have a look at in a minute. Let's have a look.
that's all now.
Are these magnets?
Yeah.
So these here are the grids that you would stick on, and they go on the AD100s there as well. And these are going to be focusing the light in different ways. So like you can see that number there, 36 degree would translate to like your 36 degree grid and that sort of thing as well.
Okay, yeah.
And we can see here now they do some interesting things here, and we kind of see it in a minute being demonstrated. But like these ones are square. So this projects a square light, not a spot of light with this grid, which is kind of interesting. And then we have different like slots of light as well with these grids. So it was kind of, I was like, okay. So I mean, they all stack with magnets and that sort of thing. So nothing particularly complex here. That one of the grids has fallen out. So yeah, the kit there for $2,000, or just over $1,000 for for 2, right? So the issue here is the 60 watt, and I think a lot of people are going to be put off by that, because as soon as you see or hear the phrase 60, you think it's just not going to be bright enough. But because of how focused these beams are, remember we've been talking about that, is pushing this light out, in this very purposeful manner, rather than just spreading it everywhere, which is what we're used to with strobes and cobs and that sort of thing. I mean, how many times have you heard me banging on about how important it is to have the flash tube exposed in the modifier so that it spreads around the modifier and uses the whole modifier and that sort of thing. So that's completely like polar opposite to something like this. So we're using a strobe to spread the light around like a beauty dish or a softbox and that sort of thing. That's what you want. Whereas what these are doing is very, very focused beams and pushing it out, and then they're kind of looking at ways of modifying it at the other end. So they're modifying it somewhere else on set rather than at the point, right? And we'll get into this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but it's kind of interesting, different way of thinking about it. So here, this is kind of cool. So you just unplug that, plug that in, it locks in, and you can just screw that into a light fixture and it powers it. Because it's 60 watts, right? So, you know, it has a converter in there or whatever. So you can just run that off the mains as is. Kind of cool. So you can kind of see the square here now in a minute, I think.
You see a square?
Oh, okay, so it does make it, yeah, more of a square. Okay, yeah.
It's all through this lens.
Now this will make more sense in a minute when we come on to some of the other things that we can kind of use with this, right? I don't think we cover anything else, just kind of looking at some bits here, just looking at some prices. Oh, and he's just talking about this kind of Fresnel
That you had on there, like
or
that
spot.
Fresnel there.
So this you can take this out, just use for now.
Okay.
This just like silicone beam.
So what is that? Just direct it? That's the Fresnel lens there.
Just give you more flow. Same thing with that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. More control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more
Okay.
control.
So again, so many of these modifiers are about sending so much of this light way down range compared to what we would typically be used to in the studio. Like a lot of these modifiers, like these grids and that sort of thing, really channeling it. And even these Fresnels on that spot, again, really sending it way down range. And again, we'll get into why that's important in a second. Okay, so okay, let's see if we've got any of the other ones here. I think we spoke about the Connect, got the MS60. We spoke about, I think we already saw this kit, right? Yeah, we spoke about the kit. Yeah, I mean, obviously you got the, you know, typical projection unit and that sort of thing. So, you know, to even focus it even further, really kind of sharpen it up. And also you got the, you know, you got the cutters here as well, like to really mask that light as well. So there's tons of, I mean, huge flexibility. So this, you know, can screws in at the bottom there with light stand mount, tripod, whatever. You unscrew it and that sort of thing. So there's loads of flexibility with this, you know, modular. You know, yeah, that's the word I was looking for earlier. Yes, it's a very, very modular system. So I don't think, did we look at this one? I think I did, just showed you that one. Oh, okay, so here he's just showing me different ways that you can kind of modify this light and the shapes and that sort of thing. So we've got the squares here, and the grids, you can make it into a slot as well, like a slot of light, and you can, you know, spread it and focus it in and that sort of thing as well. And then, you know, they're using these mirrors and stuff here as well. So I think that is all of them. Yeah, these are the grids. Yeah, so I think that's all of them there. So let's have a look at these. Let's have a look at these a little bit closer here. The interchangeable batteries compared to some of the. There's a good point, Grubs. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there about the interchangeable batteries. So there is a bunch of LED heads out there that, yeah, like the battery is internal, so you charge it up, and that's something you can't change them. Yeah, so I really like that aspect that you do have the ability to change them out if need be, right? And Grab says there, the good thing about these is they're fully interchangeable batteries compared to some other LEDs that have built in. Yeah. I just had an alert there. I'm just checking that wasn't the stream alerting me of something. Just give me 2 seconds. I think we're good, but yeah, I'm still good. Okay, cool. And so yeah. So again, like some of the different things we can do here. And that's the kind of screen that we just looked at, and the square was kind of interesting. Yeah, this just kind of shows you the different aspects you can do here, the different modifiers you can apply to it. Yeah, it says rather quickly, it locks you into the system. It's true, Vlad. Yeah, it does. Yeah, and you can say that about anything, but yes, it is a good point. Yeah, it does. Yeah. the modifiers are so useful. There's a lot you can do with them. Yeah. Square was actually clever. Surprisingly, Aperture recently released 80-watt light, Aperture Storm ADC. So is that the same thing, Gripes? Is that the same thing? Yeah. I think I found out what the alert was. So on my headphones there is a play. I apologize if I just deafened you all. I apologize. Right, let's get rid of that. Let's have a look. As someone who loves shooting with speed lights, I'd love to try exposure for these. Yeah, I would. I was like, the more I kind of was thinking about these, the more I was kind of thinking about them, I was more and more intrigued. Yeah, looks ideal for going on location. To be honest, 60 watts. You need location and blackout blinds. Agreed, Vlad. Yeah, that's the downside of this. I would say 60 watts, because the dado lights that cinema is used to is considerably brighter hot lights. Yeah, the Fresnel reminds me of one of those mag mods that made, I know. Yeah, the collapsible aspect seems good. I don't know how strong that is long term. Yeah, I think I heard that the Fresnel lens inside is plastic as well. Yeah. Oh, you play the playlist popped up. Yeah. Okay, so they do different ones, right? So these are considerably cheaper. So this is the RS60R. So this is the same thing. This is same 60 watts. R is full color and that sort of thing. Same 2 packs, right? So 2, right? Like considerably cheaper, yeah. And I was like, that's just like, that's crazy. Like the difference. So I did manage to find somewhere that shows you the difference here, right? So you got the cheap ones here, which is the RS60 on the right. So same power, same deals here, bicolor, RGB, and that sort of stuff, right? Same CRIs and TLCIs and that sort of stuff. All the ecosystem's all exactly the same. So where it kind of falls down here is it doesn't have the gel mode. So those of you that don't know, you still have all the colors. You just can't go, oh, I use 116, boom, let me just grab that gel. And it's typically because they don't have color screens, right? So on the lights, I think Nanlite did the same thing with their kind of cheaper 120 full color head. They had the same thing. It's like, we don't have gel mode in there because I don't think they have a full color screen on the unit, right? So I think that's all it is, right? Is that it doesn't have a full color screen on there, so you don't have the full color there. Yeah. Similar sort of thing here, the XY mode, that sort of thing. So you still have DMX control, okay? You don't have this pretty advanced CRMX control, which most of us wouldn't need anyway. You've got Bluetooth and dimming and all that sort of stuff. So you don't have the smooth dimming, which would mean that this would probably step maybe in. So this kind of cheaper one maybe step in, I don't know, but maybe would step in 1% rather than 0.1% maybe, so it's not quite as smooth. So you only got the color space there again. So like you're really not missing out on anything at all for most of what we would do by going for those units, for these ones, which is kind of interesting, because that is a big difference in price, huge difference in price. Everything else is exactly the same. Yeah. I was like, okay. It honestly looks like they sell a cheaper version because they don't pay a bunch of licensed RGB LED controlling code. And yeah, you could be right, Vlad. Yeah, you could be right. And was it Steve saying about paying for the controls inside? Could be right. Yeah, it's a good shout. Yeah. If that's the case, then it's kind of cool that they pass that on, because they could easily, for the cost of this, right? They could easily go, look, these other ones will do it for $1,000. Like you're saving yourself 400 quid. You're like, okay, but it's if that is the case, Vlad, could well be, then it is kind of cool that they're passing that on. So yeah. So I've mentioned these dado lights and that sort of thing, and where these things come from. So let's kind of have a look at a different video here. Let's see. That's the playlist. It's almost like I'm not organized with this. Doesn't seem like me, I know, right? So this is a photographer, Elisaveta Porodina. I think we can all agree I nailed that. Phenomenal. Like, in my opinion, one of the greatest photographers of our time, and it's not even close, right? I think her work is absolutely outstanding. And I was kind of chatting to Chris Knight about this the other day. You know, she released a new set of images and that sort of thing, and she's just done stuff for Vogue and that sort of thing with Ariana Grande, and it's kind of interesting to see somebody at this level doing what is kind of typically very seen as left field, pretty quirky, pretty kind of ragged, and working at the highest level, like front covers of Vogue, working with, you know, Ariana Grande and that sort of stuff. And you know what Chris and I were saying earlier on, it is like, you know, anybody can kind of be quirky and wacky, but to kind of do it at this level is a whole other story. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, it's important to note that these images are the product of a team, right? So Elisaveta here is the, you know, the actual person taking the images, but Joseph Bayer here is the guy that kind of works and has worked with her for a very long time on set, and he shares a lot of kind of what's going on, and we can see here, right? So these are the old dado lights. This is the old version of what we've just seen from Godox, right? So this is what we would typically see on film sets and that sort of thing. Very, very powerful spots of light, but these are the tungsten beams here, right? So again, like look at these, right? So a lot of these shoots that you're seeing, you know, the way that she's achieving her work is this very painterly style, especially with the movement and that sort of thing as well. And a lot of it is done with, you know, like 10 lights or something like that, just pools of light, allowing the kind of subject to kind of, you know, move around these pools of light. And it's really all done with these very, very focused dado lights here, right? We can see him setting them up. You've got the gloves on. I tell you, these things get hot, right? I've burned myself on the barn doors of these things more times than I care to count. So he's sensible. He's got the gloves on there. But we can see, right? He's setting them all up. And there's a bunch of different sets where he's doing that here. Let's see, maybe you've got some down here. I mean, because all of these have got shots within shots. I think we can see some, again here, we can see some of the lights. He's got the little dado light there as well. Again, just these very focused pools of light, right? So, and this is, you know, this is how they're creating these sets and these images from Elisaveta here, where, you know, very painterly style, right? Absolutely, just phenomenal work. I mean, it's just gorgeous, absolutely incredible, you know. And all of this is done with these pools of light just targeted all over with these very, very powerful beams, right? And as we can see, a lot of this is kind of long exposure work as well. A lot of movement here. Right, a lot going on in these images. So this is these spots is something that is being used, and you can make them work at the highest level and just create incredible work with them. But it's a very different way of working, right? So let's kind of look at a different version of that here. Let's take these dado lights and kind of transfer it to like a, you know, film set or TV set, and let's do similar sort of thing. And now here we have, so exactly the same lights as what we've just seen, right, from Joseph there, exactly the same lights, and again they're these very focused beams of light. Now he goes on and he's talking about these reflectors and that sort of thing. So this is where some of this now starts to come together, right? Because what they're doing is, this is the modifying that they're doing at the other end of where this light is going. Okay, and you think, well, why not just modify it at the the source and all that sort of thing as well? And this is why now you can see the benefit of that square gridded attachment that we had on those Godox heads, right? So these square grids. So now, like, these are specifically designed to be shining light directly onto these reflectors, right? And again, you're thinking, okay, yeah, I mean, it's cool and all, but really, what can we do here? We see we got some reflectors and stuff here, bouncing around and that sort of stuff. You can get them up high, and you're not worried about weight or anything like that. You can bounce them around. He's got one underneath here, and he's bouncing it straight up above from the floor below, and he's bouncing it off this beam here and that sort of thing. So why is this kind of a big deal, and why are people on film sets trying to do this with those projected lights or bounce light with these reflectors and that sort of thing? So I'm just going to jump over to Photoshop here a second. Let's open up just any old frame here, and let me just grab a brush here a second. I'm just going to see if I can get the pen tool to work. Yeah, nice. Okay. So let's take our subject here, right? Let's take our subject, and let's take our sun here, right? So we got our sun, and if we know that sun is a long way away, right? It's a very long way away. So what happens when we take our light meter reading on, like, the subject's nose here? We take a light meter reading here, right? And let's just say we take a light meter reading of their ear, like back here, right? Now with the sun, we know that if we take that light meter reading, like, the nose is going to be the exact same exposure as the ear, right? And you're like, well, Jake, it can't be, because the ear is obviously further away than the sun, than the nose, so it's obviously going to be darker. But in reality, right, when we're talking about these huge scales of how far away the sun is compared to the subject, this is why the sun is such a difficult light to kind of recreate. It's because we need to kind of collimate the light so that we can kind of trick this inverse square law principle from happening, where the sun is so far away that the distance difference from the nose to the ear is identical, right? For sake of argument, it's identical. Okay, so let's take the inverse of that. Let's bring our strobe in here, right? Let's bring our strobe in. We got our beauty dish, boom. Okay, and let's fire this off, right? And now let's take a light meter reading of the nose, and now let's take a light meter reading of the ear. There's going to be a difference, right? There's going to be a distinct difference in exposure between the nose and the ear. And us in the studio, like, we use that all the time, right? I use it all the time with the beauty dish, whatever it is. I really have my characters really, coming out of the frame with that beautiful drop off of light. Now that is not what a lot of TV and cinema want, because they want natural looking light, where they want real looking light. Yeah. So this is the problem that they have when you bring in lights too close to the subject. Yeah. Doesn't really work, right? You have this difference of light, and the light immediately looks fake. Okay, so what do we do instead, right? I'm sure some of you kind of guessed this, but what do we do instead? Let's have our reflector here, and let's have our dado light down here, right? We've just spoken about that. Boom, let's fire it up here, and then it fires across here. Look at how much distance that light has had to travel before it reaches our subject. We've essentially doubled the distance that light has traveled. So essentially we are kind of tricking the inverse square law to kind of flatten out this light. We're compressing that light on our subject's face. And a lot of cinema will do this to kind of make the light look more natural. You can't just, you can't have this light here and go, yeah, I whacked a Fresnel on it, and a Fresnel gives you the same quality of light as the sun, so should be good. Because yeah, you've got the density of light, like the shape of light. You've got the shadow detail, the same as the sun. Okay, cool, but you haven't got the same drop off as the sun, right? The light is not dropping off at the same rate that the sunlight would. Okay, and this is where a lot of people kind of struggle with it, and this is why people can get themselves into trouble with kind of this, trying to recreate certain looks, and it just looks fake, right? So what they do is they extend this distance dramatically, right? And that's how you're able to kind of get this compression of exposure, so that the nose and the ear are now the same exposure, and now they look like the light looks far much more like sunlight. Now bounce it off a reflector that is shiny and gives you hard shadows, boom, now we're starting to play with something that looks very kind of organic and very real. Okay, let's have a look. Breaks the rules and pulls it off. I know, yeah, she does. Yeah, she does definitely break the rule and pull it off. Yeah, stylize longer distance lights, so smaller fall off. Well, it's on. They're like 28 watts. Yeah. So this is why you can kind of see the benefit of some of these lights. Now, again, I haven't tested these, faux data lights there from Godox. My knee-jerk reaction is, is the kind of exposure enough, right? Is the power of it enough to do what we want to do here, right? What we're doing here by extending this, yeah. I need to see. And look, we have a lot of daylight in here as well, so there are going to be limitations to it, but certainly kind of interesting that Godox is going down this route. And like Vlad has said, and that sort of thing, you can certainly do, or I would love to play with, a kit of this and that sort of thing. Yeah. But if God wants to give you some for review, more than welcome. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Look, I may speak to Yang up there at Essential Photo and see if he's got any that he'd be willing to kind of have out like a rental set or something like that. Yeah. So part and parcel with that is going to be these, right? These reflectors, which we've kind of already mentioned there a moment ago. So let's have a look at those a second. So what we got, let's see. So what's going on here is we have one light, and then we have a bunch of reflectors from it. So this is just the one light here, and then all these reflectors are doing kind of 3 lights worth of work, right? So like it's doing, I think it might be doing 4 lights worth of work, because it's probably hitting this on the way past, it's bouncing off that reflector behind it, filling in the shadows on that side, got a softer fill on this side, and then a stronger fill on this side, right, with these reflectors. Okay, so just as kind of an example of what they can do and what they're kind of designed for. So here is the kit here, and they're all colored and numbered and that sort of thing. So the one on the blue being very shiny, like almost mirror-like, right? I think that's the 4, which I'll explain in a second. The red, which is the 4. So that is actually made in such a way that you can create strips of light with these reflectors. So it's not just bouncing light everywhere, it's actually giving you this kind of controlled strip of light. And you can see how the reflection on the surface changes. Yeah, so you see how it's been polished, so that we get horizontal highlights here, vertical highlights there, right? So the way that they're polishing it or whatever is giving you the ability to kind of focus this bounce light into slots, which is kind of cool. So I think this is probably number 1 or something. Yeah, so very shiny, right? So you saw that. So you're going to give it a very crisp, almost sunlight look. Yeah, and then 3 being very, very, very soft and diffused, as you saw there, very, very matte. Yeah. So they're grading it with the different densities and softness of the actual reflectors, and then you're changing the size of them as well. So bigger and smaller, and then you've got the slots as well. So you can see how soft that is on that fill side, very, very soft. Yeah. So there's another couple of benefits to this as well, or certainly ideas that you can kind of play with. One being is you need less lights. If you're on set and that sort of thing. Sure, you got to play this kind of weird angles game with it, but you need less lights. This is doing 4 lights worth of work here. Cool. The other thing is that space, right? If you're shooting on location for video and that sort of thing, you're shooting in a bathroom or something like that. You don't have the space for 4 lights, but you can throw up these reflectors, mirrors, and that they can act as a light, and they can be very I showed you in that setup last week with the bounce light, right? And so you can have them above, no space, and have them above. You can have them like just out of shot, in the wall and that sort of thing. Take up almost no room at all. So again, useful for that sort of thing. Yeah. I think that's kind of all I went over the reflectors there. Yep. Okay. So these aren't cheap though. So for that whole kit that you saw me playing with, which is like all of them, so that's all the sizes, all the different modifiers and that sort of thing, is about $2,000, right? So very expensive, but that's everything, right? So here you go. You see it up here. Yeah, there you go. Great. So it's literally exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. Yeah. But again, these reflectors can give you this kind of pool of light that is a little bit more organic looking than just blasting it, right? So yeah, it's useful. So you got some other different kind of options as well. I can imagine if so you could have like a larger, quite soft panel behind, right? But then you could have in front of it, you could have a smaller, like very, very hard, but almost mirror finish behind, right? So you could shine one light onto it, and then the reflected light back would be both soft, like a fill light, and this crisp hard light, all from one light. So I'd be kind of interested to play with that. Now imagine coupling that with gels, right? So imagine if you had this soft light behind, imagine this had like a nice teal gel on it, and then this baby very shiny reflector here had like a pink gel on it as well, right? So now one light, it's just firing pure white light at it. You got that soft blue coming back, and then you'd have that stark kind of harder pink light coming back from that small reflector as well, from that small mirror as well. So I think there are certain things here that you can kind of use them for that are maybe slightly more unique, rather than just like, well, why would I need that? What is it going to do for me? I can do everything as well. I think there are certain things here that you can do that are kind of unique to it. I think playing with the densities and the sizes of them stacked like that could be cool. And I think playing with different gels over them, because it doesn't have to be a single gel either as well, right? Imagine if you had, you tape together. I've got a bunch of old gels here that I've taped together. You got strips of different colors. You could really start to play with color mixing from this reflected light. Yeah, I think there's scope to be creative with it for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You mean what at the show? You could kind of play with Vlad, or you mean the Godox videos here? Yeah. And obviously you got all the kit and that sort of stuff that you would need, and and that comes in that case as well. So there you go. Yeah. So you get all these. So look, I think it's I'm always looking for new ways to kind of play with light. So it's just not like, woo, I get to sell all my LEDs. Off we go. Just grab a couple of these little LED dado lights and some mirrors, and like we're good to go. Yeah. Yeah, something here we scroll a bit. Hard soft, there you go. Yeah. Does it show it there? It kind of, yeah. I suppose you need to see it just isolated to see it. Yeah. Traditional lighting, yeah. But I also think this idea of compressing the light to give you more of a kind of natural looking light is kind of cool as well. Like I kind of explained to you there about the inverse square law and how light drops off and how you can extend these distances to get that more natural looking light. And this is that cinematic look that so many people try and achieve, and I think that these are the kind of nuances that gets lost in the YouTube detritus of you must buy this piece of kit, when a lot of it is down to technique, really, right? So yeah, pretty cool. So just kind of very broad, brief overview of Godox KNOWLED there, and again, thank you to Yang for taking the time to show me all of that. I'm sure he was busy guy. So yeah, it's interesting to see where Godox is taking it, whether they'll manage to get a significant footprint in the market. I don't know. You got to remember that China and like the cinema market in China is growing dramatically. You think about how many movies that we see in the West that is actually being produced by Golden Harvest or something like that, right? So whether they're just trying to set all this up to kind of capitalize on this kind of gold rush, as China is obviously emerging rapidly now, and has done so for many years. So whether they're just trying to jump in on that, we'll see. But Profoto thinks that there is scope there, so it'll be interesting to see where they take it from here. So